Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Oh, mic check, test.
Test. What's up, everybody? It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you as well.
Hello.
Are we doing everything through here, or are we doing like Discord?
No, through here.
Okay.
So beautiful, not having to worry about any of this crap. I'm just here as a guest.
I was about to say, it is such a strange feeling to have Nelson not as a host.
Nelson, welcome to the best podcast in AoE. How's it going?
So I heard, man. So I heard. I mean, you guys have been big inspiration for me, you know. So I've been working hard to try to match the quality and all those things. You know what I'm saying?
But it's hard, right, to match the quality.
It's very hard. Yeah. It's very hard because you guys do agree. No, seriously. I do listen to the podcast from time to time. I do enjoy it.
Yeah, awesome. But you have laid a good, how would you say in English, a footstep?
Foundation.
Yeah. I think in German we say footstep. Don't we? I don't know. Sometimes I'm mixing
trail in the snow. You lay a trail in the snow for others to follow.
Yeah, footstep kind of in that direction.
In the mud. Why would one footstep lay the foundation for anything else? Like one.
It's like the first step on the moon, you know? Like...
Are we live, by the way, or?
I hope not.
Okay, good.
Yes, we're live.
Oh,
we are live.
We're live?
We are live.
Really?
We are live, apparently.
It would be nice with a warning.
So, do we have... Is it just the three of us? Do we have somebody else comment?
No, it's just the three of us. Yeah.
All right, beautiful. You're sick, Viper.
I wanted to do this before we went live, but...
Mistakes are made.
It's good to be a good mute yourself, Viper.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe viewers get distracted by that.
Okay. I'm kidding. Okay, I'll be a professional now.
Okay. Are you ready?
Sorry. I'm kidding. I'm good.
I'm ready. Good to go. Whenever you want.
Ready all the time. Right. Then I will go for the official hello, and then we can jump into
the official hello.
Talk. Right. The official hello. So, guys, I will give you the official hello now. No, all kidding aside, welcome, guys, to another Onimaru podcast episode. I think we have number 10 already, so we're splitting.
I think it's 9, Jordan. I don't want to run your show, but I think it's 9.
Oof.
Guys, I'm just testing. Nelson is originally a host, so I was just testing if he is, concentrated here.
I mean, judging by the title on the stream, it looks like it's 9. Just saying. I mean, it could be completely wrong. So.
Nelson, did you see how Jordan introduced the first episode?
Yes, I did.
I know. Go ahead, Viper. I know you love that story.
Remind me. What was it again? I remember something funny.
The first words of the first episode ever was like, "Hey guys, welcome to another episode."
Welcome to another episode. To be fair, there had been a lot of practice before, I imagine. For the first episode, you guys had practiced a lot, so it's just another episode.
Exactly. Like if you are into it, right, then you kind of forget that this is actually the first one.
Absolutely. But, I kind of derailed your introduction. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jordan.
Exactly. No worries. I think
Jordan.
Viper did more than you. Tell me.
No, never. Jordan, how do you like my mug?
Whoa, I didn't even pay attention to that.
Dude, I've been sitting like this and like this and like this, and you haven't... I actually have to tell you.
Product placement on point.
Usually throughout the experience in the last decade or so, I started to ignore things coming from your camera and, voices or pictures, stuff like that. So, yeah.
You ignore the voices coming from my camera?
No, okay. You know what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
can we actually start
or
now?
not? Okay.
Viper, hello.
Hello.
Right. So we have two fabulous guests here, Nelson and Viper. So thank you guys for being here, and especially Nelson. And now with a little bit of a different role. Usually you are the host, especially recently, and now as a guest. How does it feel for you to have a little bit of a switch of the roles here?
I don't know. I'm afraid that at some point I'm just going to start taking over the conversation, and I'll start start asking questions. So if I start doing that, please make sure to stop me, because I don't want to do that. I don't know. The first thing I like is that I don't have to prepare anything. I'm the kind of guy that likes to prepare stuff when it comes to the podcast. I always have my little questions. I do my little research, and didn't have to do any of that shit today. Can I swear, by the way? I do.
No fucking way, bro.
That's fine. I think that's fine.
I don't know. Do you have like a mature label or something like that?
They will edit beeps in the post. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's live, right? So gotta keep that in mind. But other than that, it should be good. So yeah, the preparation is obviously a big thing, right? Other than that, as a guest, you can just chill and see where the conversation is going, so to say.
Beautiful.
All right.
Beautiful.
Hassan, I have a couple of questions prepared, as you can imagine, as experienced host yourself. And I would like to get off with this one. As many who follow you know, obviously you're a good pianist and a great teacher. What would you say are the similarities between Age of Empires 2 and playing the piano or music in general? And what are the differences?
A great teacher. I wonder who told you that I'm a great teacher.
I would assume so.
No, I actually don't think I'm a great teacher. The similarities. Yeah. I don't know. I want to say none.
Okay.
I would have to think hard about that one. Well, you mean between Age of Empires is the game when you're just watching it or when you're just playing it? I would need a little bit more.
Well, you use your fingers.
On that question. I use my fingers.
There's
one.
I
assume you want something more than that. So yeah, when I'm playing, when I'm watching.
When you're playing, I was thinking maybe more into the direction of creativity, because if you're playing the music, I suppose you need to use a lot of your creativity as well. And in Age of Empires, you kind of have that as well, right? In terms of strategy making.
That's actually an interesting point. So just to make it clear, I'm a classical pianist. And when you're a classical pianist, you play music that has been written 200, 300 years ago. And it's mostly you're following a score. So you have a score that you're supposed to follow very, very closely.
A build order.
A build order, if you will. And so there's actually, and I know this might be controversial among colleagues, it's actually, there's not a whole lot of creativity. So it's a lot, classical music, it's a lot about execution. So it's very difficult to play the pieces that we play. So you're playing pieces that are incredibly difficult to play. So it's very difficult to actually do it in the moment. And so when you go to a classical concert, it's a lot about judging the execution. How well does he manage to play this incredibly difficult passage? Or how beautiful is the sound, or whatever it is. So in that sense, there's a lot less creativity than when you're talking about something like jazz. Jazz, you're mostly improvising most of the time, and that creativity is really demanded. So on the classical music side, it's a little bit different. Again, this might be a little bit unpopular among colleagues. I know a lot of colleagues like to think that they do a lot of creativity in terms of, I don't know, how loud am I going to play here, or how soft am I going to play here. But I feel like that still pales in comparison to what jazz pianists do. So in that sense, there's a lot that is common, because Age of Empires 2 is also about, executing something. You have a plan that you practice, you want to execute it. But I kind of feel, I'm not a pro player. I've never played any tournaments, but I kind of feel like in Age of Empires 2, very often you have a plan and then things go south because your opponent, there's an opponent that can make it more difficult or more easy for you. And when I'm alone playing on the stage, I'm basically just going to reproduce exactly the same thing that I'm practiced. And there's no one that is going to be there, making it difficult for me. So I'm just reproducing what I practiced before. It's a lot more stress, obviously, because I have an audience and things like that. But you're mostly just doing what you've been doing at home all the time. So in that sense, it's very different, I think.
For someone like me, and there are other people out there, I'm sure as well, who are not into music that much, could you elaborate what makes it so hard to, let's say, just copy it? Because if I compare it to a build order in Age of Empires, like, it doesn't take a lot of practice to be able to somewhat nail down the build order. What is so hard at just following or copying the, how would you say, the music in that sense?
Yeah, I do hear that a lot, and I totally understand it. Again, we're talking about pieces that have survived 200 years, 300 years, right? If I play a piece by Beethoven was born in the 18th century, and we're still playing a piece by Beethoven, that's something that has survived because it's a very good piece of music, and people have enjoyed those pieces of music through a long time. And the thing about music is that humans are incredibly passionate about music. So you have people that practice hours and hours and hours and hours every single day because they're just that passionate about music. So people back in the day, there were no computers, there were no phones. So when you have nothing to do, you sit at the piano and you practice 12 hours a day, exercises. Yes. And so the kind of music that survived until today, classical music, is music that it's composed firstly by incredibly brilliant people and people who are excellent at their instruments. So they write things that are just very difficult to perform on the day. I mean, it's like saying, it's like saying, why can't like a footballer, or why can't like a basketball player hit every, I don't know what you call those, what do you call the things you were supposed to hit every single time?
Just the shots, right?
Yeah, but the ones where nobody's actually disturbing you. Everybody's just like on the sideline.
Free throws.
Free throw, exactly. It's like, why can't a basketballer hit every single free throw? You know, things can happen. It's difficult, so it's a little bit the same thing. It's just that it's so incredibly difficult to play a lot of the pieces that we play that things can go wrong all the time, despite you practicing it a lot.
I think in Age of Empires you don't have the level of mistakes you can do if you just execute a build order, right? But at, let's say, basketball or music, it's a different story, so to say.
I think a big difference there as well is Age of Empires. We have variety in maps, right? In piano, it's just going to be you on the piano. You're not going to have like suddenly the keyboard is like higher or lower.
It's not going to be different.
Right exactly.
That's kind of true. Back in the day, that used to be a big problem. That keyboard instruments were very different, but now it's been mostly standardized, and it's mostly Steinway pianos in a big concert hall. But what is very different and influences a lot is the kind of hall, because there's a lot of echo on certain halls. Certain halls are more dry, so you need to play with less pedal. Other halls are going to be a lot more, echoey if you play in the church, something like that. So as a pianist, you're supposed to react to it and
are you able
play
to
accordingly.
Are you able to test that out beforehand? It's not like you sit down and be like, oh, I have to adapt on the spot.
Yes. Yeah. It's absolutely essential that you get, well, it depends on the situation, but ideally you want to have like 2-3 hours where you can really test everything, the acoustics and things like that. And for pianists, it's also a little bit different because although it is very standardized in terms of you always have the same amount of keys, the key length is usually the same, it can still be very different in terms of how heavy the action is on a piano. So some pianos have very heavy actions so that it's really difficult to play very fast. So you need to adjust your tempo and play a little bit slower, for example. Other pianos, again, if the acoustics is very echoey in the sense, then you have to play slower to make sure that the audience can actually listen every single note that you're playing. So you need to adjust a little bit. It's different when you have like a violin and you could just carry it with you all the time, or a flute or whatever. You just can bring your own instrument, and it's a lot easier, of course.
That's something I didn't know. I thought you always bring your own one if you have a certain level, but
no.
In most cases, it's the one.
By the way, this is not dirty laundry. This is just a piano cover. I've been making that very clear. But imagine bringing one of these bad boys to a concert hall. I mean, it's and this one is very small. It's not even close to being big enough to be on a big stage. Yeah.
What would you say are like the most important skills you need to have as a pianist playing in front of an audience? Is it like being able to perform at the spot? Is it preparing a lot? Is it good ears so you can adapt to, let's say, what you mentioned, echo? What would you say is like the most important thing there?
Well, everybody will give you a different answer, maybe. As a pianist, especially as a pianist, but in the classical music, you just have, in the classical musical world, you have to be incredibly good, technically speaking. It means you have to train. It's basically like a bodybuilder or like an athlete. You have to have very, very good, strong, independent fingers. So the technique, being able to play fast, being able to play accurately, it's incredibly important. And that's like 80% of the work of a professional pianist. You just do exercises, you do technical exercises, and you have to become incredibly good at it. But then, of course, you need to be somewhat outgoing and be someone who does enjoy being on a stage. Because at the end of the day, despite how difficult it is to learn these pieces and to play them, you have to actually enjoy being on a stage. And you have to enjoy the fact that people are going to applaud you and going to be grateful. You have to enjoy that. And if you're too nervous all the time because you're afraid you're going to mess up or anything like that, then you can just really, I imagine you cannot really enjoy it because it's just going to be worried all the fucking time. And, and it don't really, I imagine it's very similar for Age of Empires. I mean, you guys are going to be nervous when you're playing the Royal Albert Hall, I imagine, but some part of you is going to be enjoying it, right? Some part of you is going to be enjoying the fact that you have an audience and hundreds, 100,000 people are going to be watching you guys live. So a part of that needs to be there for sure. And the rest is just training. And the thing about classical music is that it's incredibly difficult to be accepted into a music college, incredibly difficult. But once you get accepted, you don't really have to do much. It's like you have to be so good to be accepted that you don't really learn too much after you get accepted into a college. That's my feeling. But yeah, it's kind of how it goes.
So getting the foot into the door is much harder than actually the college, because you're that good already in order to get there that
Yes.
you know most things anyway.
Yes. You have to have a basic level that it's already incredibly high and much higher than some of other things that you might be thinking about. Yes.
Okay, and on that topic, Nelson, as you're a teacher yourself, what would you say are like the most important things a teacher should have as a trait in order to give the best experiences to their students?
All right, so just to make it clear, I don't think I'm an exceptionally good teacher. I think I have.
Why do you think so?
Well, it's one of the reasons I've been streaming in the morning, if I'm going to be quite honest, because we're I don't know if you wanted to talk about this, but I've been quite active now as a streamer in the mornings. It's when I have time, right? Because most of my students are going to be kids, so I teach in the afternoon my kids. The students that come to me to come to this room, and then in the mornings I do have the time because my own kids now go to school, so I have more time to do it. But it's just again, this all goes back to the fact that it's, as a classical music or musician, you actually have to be so incredibly qualified to make it to a united college. And then very often, in my case, for example, I'm teaching beginners. And, there's a very positive fact of that. I'm teaching kids and, I'm doing something that's very good for society, if you want to go out like this, something that it's useful for the kids, learning music, being in contact with an instrument and things like that. But it's just like, I feel for my level of qualifications, I would have loved to teach people that are a little bit further away. And it's just very difficult to do that, because to do that, you have to be able to teach in college or something like that. And again, competition is crazy high. And so I feel like these days I lose patience a lot. I don't scream during teaching. I don't do it, but I lose patience very often. When this kid comes that been doing the same mistake for 4 weeks, I correct it every single time. He comes back next week, still the same mistakes are there. I shut off. My brain shuts off. I start looking at my phone. So I'm not sure I'm a fantastic teacher. I hope I do a good enough job. And I'm sure I do a good enough job in terms of the subject matter. So that what I'm telling him to do is right. I know that to be a fact. But I kind of feel like a more talented teacher would be really patient, really sit next to them, listen, you've been doing this wrong, you need to go this. And very often I'm at a point where I'm just like, fuck it, just do it again. I'll just let's play that again. So, but if you want it, that's what I think a good teacher does, right? You really get involved. You're really invested in the development of a student, even if that student keeps making the same mistake over and over again. It really shows you he's not that into what you're telling him. And sometimes I feel like I miss that sometimes. And I think a part of it is because I was hoping maybe that I could have been teaching people that would be at a higher level, something like that. But I mean, I can't complain. It's on one hand, it's an amazing job. I get to just sit here. I sit at home. I don't need to go anywhere. People come to me, And again, you have one-on-one lessons, so you kind of develop a relationship with the students. And you really get to know them better. And I mean, I love all my students on a personal level. They're all great. They're great kids. I love all of them in that sense. I just feel like a more talented teacher would be more patient, I think. Okay. Even the moments where you just, you kind of feel like you've had enough.
Jordan, do you relate when you're coaching? Do you relate?
I was about to say, I think what you're saying, Nelson, is 100% relatable. Like there are moments, especially as you're saying, right? If you are playing on a high level yourself, that you also want to have the possibility to teach people who are as passionate and on somewhat the same level, maybe a little bit lower, where you can, the motivation is different, the passion is different, and the enjoyment therefore is also different. So I think it's completely relatable what you're stating there.
Yeah, or just somebody who shows that they want to improve. A lot of kids, they come and you can tell they don't give a crap whether they're improving or not. They're just coming because I think again, I want to think on a human level. I would like to believe that I do develop a nice relationship with the kids. Again, I'm nice to them. I'm open. I tell them everything they ask me. I'm interested in their lives. So I think some kids keep coming because they like that part, that we just have this human relationship, personal relationship. But to me, that's not enough sometimes. I just want to see that they actually want to improve on the piano, and a lot of them don't.
Yes, totally understandable. So that comes or brings me to the next topic as well regarding talent and hard work. Viper, how much do you think talent and hard work is important? Like, would you say that someone who's extremely talented would be able to overdo someone who's talented as well, not as talented as the other guy, but puts in way more effort?
I think it differs from what we're talking about, right? Football, are we talking football? Are we talking Age of Empires? Like the prime example people use in football is that Messi is like the most gifted player ever, but then Cristiano Ronaldo, who is like his main rival, is probably the hardest, most dedicated, like not as talented as Messi. Has obviously got a massive talent, but he is just so dedicated and so hardworking. And people use that a lot in their comparisons of talent versus hard work. In my opinion, hard work always overcomes talent, no matter what. But obviously, talent is required. Talent is to me what is your like hindrance or peak rather, right? Regardless of how much work you put in, there will be a talented limitation there, whereas like you cannot go further no matter how much work you put in. However, if someone has a higher ceiling than others because of their talent, so if they put in the same work, they will reach the higher level. So I would say maybe like if we were to put it in percentages, I think if everyone worked equally hard, like I think 75% is work and the 25% talent in terms of importance.
Maybe that's
something in that.
I mean,
we've
finished.
we've discussed this many times, right? And I don't think there's like an obvious answer or a clear answer, but in general, I tend to agree. And I also think, again, in the world of classical music or chess, you see these kind of wonder kids all the time. And I think that's also very often an interesting phenomenon, because I think very often there's a very common denominator among those kids that develop really well and very early. And first of all, obviously the time that you have to spend, you have to practice a lot and all of that. But I also see support from the family being incredibly important. That you have a family that supports you, that really gets you the coaches. And also, honestly, when you have those, because you have to have at some point in your life like this moment where you really practice very intensively, and I think it's very important that that happens at a very young age. It's something that I've observed also as well. I mean, I could have the biggest talent for Age of Empires 2 in the world, which I don't obviously, but if I did, and if I start now, I'll never be able to reach you guys' levels. It's just like, I think there's an important aspect of it sort of having to be part of you. You have to start early enough that it kind of becomes part of you, and all these mechanical things that you don't even notice you're doing, but you are doing, all those things had to become part of you. And I think that only happens if you start early enough. That's what we observe from chess, from piano, from football. That talent, yes, it's a big deal. Practice, also a big deal, but also starting young, I think it's a very important aspect. And I think that's, I imagine what happens that it becomes like second nature to you. And there are a lot of things you guys don't even think about that you are doing, and you are doing. And I have to think about it when I'm playing, just because it's not part of me in the same way that it's part of you. I think that's also a big important point.
That's such an important point, as you say, and very interesting as well. It's just part of the system, right? And like for me, example, and Viper, I'm sure as well, we are not even aware that this is something which is not in the system of someone else. Like,
absolutely.
When I started coaching now, I see people doing certain things where I'm like, how can you do that? Like, it should be automatic that you don't do things like that. But they do it, right? And then you realize, oh yeah, because it's part of your system. It's part of my system because I've been playing that for 2 decades now, intensively. At one point, it's just natural.
And I think that's also one of the reasons why the best teachers are not always the best players. And I've seen that very closely. There's this pianist that I like a lot, and it's well known as one of the best pianists in the world. And he doesn't teach, but from time to time he does like these little master classes, or what do you guys call it? Seminars, maybe. That's a term that would be more familiar to you, maybe. And I was present in one of those, and it was incredible to see. The guy just could not understand that the student could not play one passage the way that he wanted. It was just, this girl was trying to do it, and he just could not understand. Look, like this. He sits down and he does it. Well, yes, she knows that's how it's supposed to be. But he cannot imagine that someone could not do it. And I see this as well in coaching very often in AoE too, and in other aspects too, that folks just focus on little things that that for them are incredibly important. So for me, the biggest example is when I see, like, and I'm not trying to call anyone out. You can picture any other game, but when I see coaches when they're coaching, I don't know, like a 1400 or a 1300, and they're talking about making their lumberjacks effective. Listen, shift click this lumberjack into the next one. Make sure that, I don't know, your sheep. You're talking about very specific little things that you kind of do automatically. And I think that for someone who's already overwhelmed with the game, to focus on those things that are unlikely to decide games is maybe not the right way to go. Now, you, of course, you have the mental bandwidth to think about those things. But for you, the arcade is so fucking automatic. You don't have to think about anything. Viper can talk to his chat all the time when he's microing in 3 different places. And it's just not doable for someone who's a lot of these things is not automatic just yet.
That's so funny because I had recently 2 students who started quick walling. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, you watch too much Viper. What are you doing? I'm telling them, get that shit out of your system. Really,
what, bro?
I don't want to see it.
You want to be a good coach or not?
They're quick walling. In the meantime,
quick wall, that's a number 1. Before
I will open a quick wall university. Send them to me.
Fish boom and quick walls, yes.
Yeah. They're quick walling and then half of the eco idle, but they're quick walling and then they fail.
Worth it.
Worth it.
Yeah. The mental damage when you succeed is insane. You have to think about that.
What is the mental damage if you don't succeed and half of your eco is idle?
Then it backfires. But that's
why you practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
How much mental damage have I given you, Jordi, through our practice games when I quick wall and save the... Exactly. See? And guess what? My eco is not idle behind it. So you know that. So your mental damage is even more.
You know, it has developed into a stage where I don't even commit to the villages of you anymore. I was like, I will not give him that.
Quick wall anyway, yeah.
No, I will not give him that.
It's
all right. Regarding the classical topic, I would have one last question, Nelson. Who is the greatest of all time, in your opinion?
Composer, pianist.
Come on, Jordan.
Composer.
It changes to me. It changes. Right now, if you were to ask me right now, I would say maybe Brahms, Johannes Brahms. Maybe it's one of my favorite ones, but it's been Rachmaninoff before, it's been Chopin before, it's been Liszt before, it's been Schumann. And I don't know if these names, I don't know if these names mean anything to you, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Hochmann, yeah, of course, I know him.
Yeah. I thought we would hear something like Beethoven or Mozart. But
and that's the ones everyone know, right?
No, yes. But again, you're supposed, it's one of the other things they were supposed to do as a classical pianist. You're supposed to have a broad repertoire. So, of course, I had to play all of those composers. And I love their music, obviously. But
yeah,
since you asked me who's the greatest of all time, I just gave a personal answer, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. All right. Transitioning into more to the Age of Empires 2 realm.
Ooh, segue.
How, what did you say?
Segue. Said segue.
Ooh, segue.
Segue? What is the segue?
It's like a
transition, like a smooth.
Okay.
Segue.
Okay. Yeah. Viper, why do you sound so surprised by that as a co-host?
I wasn't surprised. I was excited.
Okay.
Segue.
I like that. Segue. I like that. So, Nelson, how did you initially get into Age of Empires 2, and what got you really hooked about the game?
So I started playing basically when it came out. So what was it again? Okay. I played a
2009, right? No,
2009. No, way before that. So 1999 must have been like AoE 1, right? You had AoE 1. I played AoE 1. I played AoE 2. And honestly, what got me hooked was the internet, was the fact that you could play it online. And again, you need to think about back in 2000. The fact that we could actually go online and go to the zone and actually play with other people is just such a mind-blowing thing that you can do all of that. And I kind of think that was what got me hooked, that you can actually do that. You can type with other people. We didn't really have voice chat in the first year, but you can type with other people, can play with other people. How is that even possible? I don't know if you guys remember this. So you used to have these 56K modems that in order for you to go to the internet, it will actually block your landline, so you cannot be on the phone at the same time you're on the internet. Yeah, so I remember just calling my friend, okay, so this is my IP address, write it down. And you cannot call me anymore because now I'm going to be on the internet. So you need to write it down and make sure that it's the correct one. And then we connect to a game and we play together. Amazing times. Yeah. So that's how I got hooked into it. But yeah, later on, I find out about the MSN Zone. There's also Merc. Does anyone remember Merc or IRC? It's like a chat room. Those were like chat rooms. Yeah,
too young for those.
Yeah, that might be a bit too old for you guys. Yeah, and then we got a hold of recorded games. I remember watching all the games of Art Coven, of Doubt, of Kapaj. I remember watching those recorded games, following a little bit the professional scene. And that's what got me hooked at first. And how amazing that we can actually have Civ. I remember clearly when the Microsoft tournament, the 2001 tournament happened, we had a Portuguese guy in there. I remember how we all were waiting to see the recorded games, to know the results, and all those things. This is amazing moments.
Who was it? Ralber?
B-Virus?
Port Jill. That was before B-Virus. Long before B-Virus. B-Virus was maybe our best player ever. But it was long before that guy, yeah.
Ralber or something?
I think it's Spanish.
Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Sure. So
Portugal, Spain, two different countries. Orient, you know. People confuse them sometimes.
Yeah, it happens. B-Virus was in Tyrant.
He was
just a little bit.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, so
a strange time.
He left after he lost. I remember this so clearly. He lost to FedEx in Clash of the Titans. So that was Clash of the Titans was 2014, I think. And then he left the clan. I don't know if that's why. Again, I wasn't involved with it. You guys would know. I don't know if it was like an embarrassment to lose to FedEx back in the day. But he got he left the clan after that tournament. I remember clearly.
I don't remember
exactly, but I would guess that left would not be the right word to use.
He was kicked?
I would think so.
Yeah.
The standards and demands were fairly high to be part of Tyrant. So if it was still very fresh, right? And it was one of the first tournaments after he joined. So
yeah,
I think it was just like a what's it called? Birth by fire, and then it just I just think probably just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and I think it was also one of the first 1v1 tournaments in a long time. I mean, I remember it was the first tournament that you told me this. You thought it was the first tournament where I thought, yeah, I'm probably the best player. Now, because he won it and it was like the first 1v1 tournament in a long time. And everybody was expecting you to win. You win it. Yeah, there was that thing with Jordan. We've talked about this so many times. But yeah.
Details. There are rules to tournament. You have to follow the rules.
Yeah,
it's very straightforward.
You're always coming. You're always coming with that. Unbelievable.
I understand. What's the issue? Everyone signed up knowing the rules. You cannot sit in hindsight and be like,
I'm not. It's like, in my heart, I won. That's the most important thing.
In my heart as well.
Thank you. All right.
But I got the ching ching.
What was the prize pool for that one? Do you guys remember? 10,000?
Massive.
6,000 for the first
6,000.
Crazy. Wait, was it 6,000 for first?
Well, for the first prize, it's not too bad. Well, it's not too bad.
I'm pretty sure. And the second, 4,200, if I'm not mistaken.
You seem to have been thinking about this a lot, Jordan.
Yes, I love.
Yes.
I loved. It got internalized.
Clash of the Titans, 2013. Oh, yeah. Jordan is right.
6,000.
Wow, exactly. Yeah.
13 it was. Okay, 13.
Damn.
Yeah.
I find it sad that I still remember those numbers. So
13 years, yeah. Feels like you've been thinking about it, indeed.
Let it go, Jordy. Let it go.
I went through some emotional stress, especially I had my last set finished. I'm not sure if Nelson knows. Let's see. And then there was Doubt against Viper, right?
And he loses 5-0. I remember we were together. I was with you.
I had to 5-0 to win.
Yes. So Doubt has to win one game. So I'm telling Doubt, can you please play proper? And he tells me, so Jordan, what I will do, I will lose the first 4 games on purpose. And then the 5th game, I will play serious. And at that moment, I hated him so much. I was like so angry at him. And then he loses 4-0. And then in the 5th game, he's ahead. And he's just throwing.
Jordan, was it Saracens versus Vikings?
No, Saracen Mirror.
Yeah.
Saracen Mirror. I remember the Saracen part. Yeah, okay.
Doubt went Mamelukes. I just went Camels and I snowballed.
I have very vague memories of that. It's 13 years ago, but I
know what you're thinking about, Nelson. You're thinking about me and Jordan, the last game of Best of 21.
That was
Vikings.
Huns. That was Huns.
Yeah, Vikings against Huns. Yeah.
In Meatballs. Yeah. I remember
when the Vikings was involved there.
Yeah, Vikings Meatballs, yeah.
Where someone had 6 deep fish and the other one not.
True.
Was it short fish?
No, deep fish.
Meatballs didn't have deep fish, did it?
It shouldn't, but you had 6.
Didn't help. You had the Civ win.
But isn't it crazy? That was really talked about too much. Maybe between you guys, but between the viewers, that wasn't even talked too much. That was
even us. We didn't really notice those things that much back then.
So great. Imagine that in today's environment.
Not possible.
There you have this kind of map that is that unbalanced, because that's game deciding from today's standards, at least.
Of course. Yeah,
and
of course.
And I kind of feel like I do miss that a little bit. I don't know if you guys, I mean, there's so much money involved, and I do understand you want maps to be fair, but I do miss the thing that AoE2 at the end of the day, it's about adaptation. So even have a very shitty map, just try. I understand. This is as a viewer, I understand. As players, gonna have a different perspective, obviously.
Just the depth.
Like shitty map is one thing, but a completely unfair map is obviously a completely different thing. Right?
That was one, Orion. That map was ridiculously unfair, and yet everybody remembers that series. After 13 years, I still remember that very last game. So
as well, still the better play one. That's I think nowadays the level is so close on the competitive level of the players that maps are too much of a deciding factor.
These things decide too much. Yeah, I see that. I see that. Yeah,
especially when you combine that with, like, we used to have so many mirror matchups in the past as well, and now there's no mirrors as well. So Civ advantages and disadvantages can even be furthered. And when you have a bad map and a bad Civ matchups, it's just.
I mean, you had 3 civs, right? Huns, Mayans, Aztecs, and then if it's water, it's Vikings. You have 4 competitive civs, and if you have
sometimes
Mongols,
on Mongolia and Yucatan.
Maps with a lot of hunt. Yes, and it was like 50% the hunt bonus, more than now, I think.
Yeah, it was even better.
Crazier.
It was a good time, man.
Bad times. Stonewalls were so good back then as well.
Stonewalls, lag.
Dude, Tim, that's the only reason Tim with his 12 APM could keep up.
Well-Walled. Do you remember Well-Walled? GG Well-Walled? Jordan, come on. What are the classics? Was it Masters of Arabia? Or was it Masters of Arabia?
Yeah. I think Jordan lost to Tim in the semifinal.
Yes,
and then I faced him in the final.
You lost in the final. Grass your sister, something like that? Okay,
that was later. That was the best of 21, where he quit at 4-0.
Oh, yeah, okay, I got that confused. Okay, but Well-Walled was in the Masters of Arabia where he lost full walls like minute, I don't know what.
Full stone walls every game and then just counterattacks. It was just so annoying and boring. I was so tilted.
I think Tim was the only player in Age of Empires 2 history to tilt
Viper. Yeah.
I think so.
I think you're correct, yeah.
In AoE2. It's hard to tilt you. Yeah. And Tim managed. It's like, what's going on?
That was like, if you put me there, like 3 years later, me version against him.
Yeah, you were still trying to prove yourself, right? You were not the Viper that you were years later when.
And my perception back then was like, there's one right way to play Age of Empires, and Stonewalls is the wrong way to play it, and he's not allowed to play his way, right? Everyone should play like I play. It's completely nonsense. So, but that's the beautiful thing about maturing.
Exactly, you get a different perspective in life.
Wisdom.
Expand your horizons. Yes.
So Nelson, just the fact that there was multiplayer possibilities in Age of Empires got you hooked, and was that also automatically the moment where you felt like Age of Empires is not just a game, it's going to be an important part of my life?
Not at all. I mean, when I'm playing Age of Empires, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, what a segue to the next question. Okay, carry on.
What?
I think it was beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful. I'm giving you credit. Yeah, it was great.
Need to learn to take a compliment, Jordan. You know,
not from him. Not from him. He's trolling too much.
I when I'm 16 or however old I was back then, I'm like thinking, I'm 16. I love playing video games. I love playing Age of Empires 2. But yeah, when I grow up, I'm gonna have a job. I'm gonna grow out of computer games. Computer games are things that only young boys play, and not even young girls back in the day. It just wasn't common to see that. But so no, the fact you can think about having it be part of your job or having it be part of your daily professional life is never something that I thought about. I never even thought that would be a thing for anyone, let alone for me. That was just not in the cards for us. And I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know about, I believe StarCraft 2 around that time was already very popular. And in Korea, you did have a professional scene. It's like, it's something that happens for other games in other countries. But in our game, no chance. No. That's, I believe that was the wide perspective from everybody.
Yes, I remember also when Viper and I, back in the days, we followed StarCraft 2 a lot, right? And Age of Empires was kind of like dead, felt like that. StarCraft 2 was thriving, LAN events, gaming houses, and we're like, I don't know, 18 years old, talking to each other, like, oh man, can you imagine something like that for Age of Empires?
And now you're here, no? And now you're here.
You know, that's crazy, yeah. So when was the first moment for you, Nelson, where you felt like, this could actually be something proper? Age of Empires 2. I mean,
you mean now the game in general, or just for me, or I mean for the game in general?
For you, as you felt like, okay, this could be part of my life.
Listen, I started the podcast, the Kings and Plebeians podcast with Orion, with an interview with Orion. I think it was 2021, and I just wanted to do it because nobody else was doing it, and nobody was doing interviews. Like, oh, okay, let me give this a try. Then the first video had like 20,000 views, which were like, what the. Yeah, I was not expecting my first video. Then the second one was good too, and people were giving me nice comments, so I just kept doing it. Then at some point, now fast forward a lot of years, a lot of years, and then at some point, Timon reaches out to me, and he's like, "Hey, GamerLegion would be interested in having a podcast as well. We would like to have you. It's going to be you and Viper, and you guys are going to be talking about the professional scene, about tournaments and things like that." And we make the first episode. The views are great. Again, GamerLegion is giving me a little bit of money for every episode. At the beginning, they were indeed doing it. Later, not so much. But that's just how it grew. That's just how I grew. Then the podcast became more popular. People were sending me emails saying how much they like it and giving suggestions for what topics to cover. So it just grew like that. So I guess if you ask me what was the point where I thought this could be part of my professional life, was when GamerLegion sort of took me under their umbrella and made this a bit more professional with a little bit of money and things like that.
So around 2021, 2022, something like that.
No, 21 was when my podcast started. With GamerLegion was for NAC 4, I think. I think it was the first episode was NAC 4. We recorded it at the end of the tournament, and I remember it was me, Viper, and Neely. It was the first episode, and what was that? 24 maybe? 2024, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So Nelson, you're not only a player, a viewer in terms of Age of Empires, but you're also a host, caster, and community figure. Which role do you feel like is most natural for you?
That's an interesting question. So because probably people are expecting me to say the role of the host, because it's what they've known me for. But as I told you before, I've been streaming now every day, like since 2 months roughly. And I mean, I see you online roughly at my time every day. It's the same shit as always. If Jordan is on, I get no viewers. If Jordan's not on, I get some viewers. So it's the way it always works.
And I know that feeling. Yeah.
And I've been surprised how natural it has felt to me to just come back to casting. So again, you guys are going to remember I did do some casting. The Maldives tournament must have been the most visual, you guys are going to remember more. I did cast a lot of Nations Cup games as well. And I've been surprised how natural it's felt to me to just do all of this. I mean, obviously, the game knowledge could be better. I mean, I've been improving and all of those things. But I just feel like from a technical perspective, keep describing what's happening in the game, having a somewhat, constant pace, not trying to not make it too boring, anything like that. It just felt incredibly natural to me, to the point I'm really enjoying doing it. It's something that I would like to think I do a decent job at. And so maybe if you ask me what's the most natural role to me, then maybe the one of a caster. But again, I would not dare to say that I'm the level of the other ones. Still need a lot of experience and all of those things. Now, in terms of a host, it's something that I've practiced. It's just something that I practiced. Yeah. And then, so if I were to be given a role at a tournament as a host, I don't know if that's a segue. I don't know if I'm creating a segue into something or not. But if I were, that's something that I feel I do a good job at, just because it's something I practice a lot. Podcast has been going now on for 50 episodes or something like that. So,
would you?
So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Would you want to be involved in casting bigger tournaments?
Yes.
Yeah,
I would.
As an official caster for for example, a Red Bull, right?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yes, I would. I mean, again, it's been 2 months that I've been doing this. I've been having a lot of fun. I mean, the channel is growing like crazy. We have I have right now 350 subs, which is absolutely mind blowing for me. In fairness, a lot of it is a very, very generous person that has been gifting subs left and right. I don't know if he wants to be named, so I'm not going to say who it is. If he is in the channel, he knows, right? He knows who he is. A big part of that is that, but has been seeing so much support. The channel has been growing slowly, obviously, but but surely, and it's just been a lot of fun. I don't know. I love watching Age of Empires 2. People keep showing up to listen to the casting, so. Yeah, I'd love to give it a crack. Maybe I'm going to be shit. People are going to hate me. That's very possible, and then I'll know that I can stop it. But if you ask me if I'd like to have that opportunity, yes, absolutely.
So 2 things I have to say to that. First of all, I remember Maldives. You also casted there, right? And I always felt like you. Yeah, exactly. And I always felt like you did an amazing job at casting. Like you have great. You have great English, you have a good flow, and I think you understand very much when to say what, and especially with the voice, the tone. It's very well
Jordan,
said.
I'll take it, bro. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. We'll fucking take it.
You're welcome. You're welcome, and I think it makes a lot of sense for you to go further into the direction. And also regarding the negative comments, there are always going to be negative comments. I think it's important that you just keep your way.
No, I'm way beyond that. Listen, I'm 40 years old. I'm way beyond that. At some point when you start making content, you have this utopia, you have this idea. Maybe there's something I can do that was going to make everybody like me. Maybe I just need to do this and then everybody will like me. And there's no chance that I'm going to get negative comments. No. Everybody gets negative comments. Everybody, what really made this clear to me. Riley is, in my opinion, Riley Knight, the host for Red Bull, is my opinion like the perfect fit for an Age of Empires 2 tournament. I cannot think about anyone who could do a better job at this. Right? It's just like the charisma, the history knowledge, the how funny he is. It's just like the perfect fit. And I've seen a couple of negative comments towards him. This guy is so boring and so cringe. It's like, if even the most natural of hosts, the most natural talents gets this, everybody will get it. I'm way beyond that at this point. And again, you can imagine if I have a podcast with Viper, with Hera, and I'm disagreeing with what they're saying, even if I'm right, which I am most of the time, obviously, but if I'm disagreeing with the Viper, if I'm disagreeing with the Hera, I'm going to get called stupid and ignorant. So you get vaccinated against those things at some point.
Listen, should we have a discussion about Lord of the Rings here?
I know it. Like I was afraid we were going to get that. But
here, I will be 1v2. So I'm actually at a disadvantage in this room.
Oh, why? What?
How? Jordan thinks Lord of the Rings is a 6 out of 10. Nelson thinks it's overrated. Like,
oh, what?
Yeah.
Jordan. High five, brother. Man, I'm not allowed.
Shame these guys. Shame them.
I'm not allowed to say it, but when we had that episode, that was with Spirit of the Law, by the way. I remember that so fucking clearly. Because Spirit of the Law, also massive fan of Lord of the Rings. Someone, I'm not allowed to say who it is because I'm sure he would be pissed if I say someone messaged, dude, someone had to say that. Someone had to say that. But he didn't want to say it publicly. This person is, I don't know. Yes. Yeah, they like to keep a low profile when it comes to this. But just saying it, it's not just the two of us, Jordan. Not just the two.
I know. There's maybe 4 of you in total.
There are a lot.
That's one guy that messaged Masmorra and maybe someone else.
There are a lot, but they're hiding. They know what.
They don't want to get the crap. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Because when you have a bad.
Just to be clear, I think it's an amazing movie. All right, it's a great visuals, very entertaining, all of those. It's just if you were to ask me if it's in my top 10, it isn't. Just
what's the rating?
What's my personal taste?
Out of 10. Out of 10.
What's the rating out of 10? I'd give it an 8. 8 out of 10.
Oh,
8?
okay. See,
I'll get it an 8. Yeah.
I will accept that. I would still be like,
not that bad.
I would still be wondering what's wrong with you. But
just to be clear, I'm talking about the movie, not talking about the books. I didn't read the books. If you were to tell me that's the greatest piece of literature that's ever been written, maybe. I don't know. I believe you. I'm just talking about the movie as someone who knows nothing about the books.
Howard Shore, the music in Lord of the Rings,
fantastic,
is amazing.
Fantastic, yes. Great composer. I like him a lot. Yeah, I like him a lot. Howard Shore, John Williams would be 2 great names that I would name as music composers that are amazing. Yeah,
agreed.
What are your top 3 movies, Nelson?
Top 3 movies.
Oof.
So I remember Orion mentioning Shutter Island once in the podcast.
Not top 3.
No, for you, but I don't know if I would put it in top 3, but it's just I just name and just say it's one movie that it's really my kind of movie. I like this kind of movie that just blows me away with plot twists. I hate the kinds of movies where I see the first 5 minutes, I know exactly what's going to happen throughout the next 2 hours or however long the movie is. Even if it's a gorgeous movie, fantastic acting, even if all those things are true, I just want to be blown away by a plot twist or by not knowing what's going to happen. And Shutter Island, that last sentence where I don't know what the line was again, but when he makes it clear that he knows what he's done and he's dying, he knows he's going to get killed, but he prefers to get killed. I think that line lived with me for like 2 fucking weeks. I don't know what the line was, but he makes it clear that he knows what he's done and that he knows he's going to die. DiCaprio. I don't remember the name of the actor.
Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah. I mean, he leaves it up to interpretation. People wonder, wait, does he actually know or does he not know? Right?
I think it's kind of clear he knows.
I would agree with you, but a lot of people think as well that, like, wait, but that's the point, right? It's such an amazing ending where you're left thinking, oh, like,
absolutely,
it's just so deep, right?
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that doesn't let you go, right? I was thinking about the movie for like 2 weeks or whatever. Seven, I loved Seven. If you guys have watched it with Brad Pitt.
Seven is amazing, yeah.
Seven also lived with me for weeks and months. Again, the ending where the guy just shoots. Like, it's just really, really. Oh, spoilers! The movie's been out for 30 years or whatever, but spoilers. So I guess Seven. Seven, I would put in my top 3. I think
7, Shutter Island, and the third one.
Third one, English Patient. I remember loving that movie. It's not really The English Patient. It got a couple of Oscars. I don't even know who the actors were. I know that I love that movie. It's about I don't even know exactly what it was about, but I remember watching it and thinking it was amazing. So I gotta put it up there. The English Patient. It's a very old movie. Yeah.
The funny thing is Jordan doesn't know any of those 3 movies.
Do you know all of them?
I don't know the English Patients, but the other 2 I know.
Okay.
Very good movies. Very good.
Yeah.
Jordan, what's your top 3?
A lot of agreement.
My top 3: Interstellar.
Taken 2.
Then the one you laughed about when I pronounced it. What was it?
Sean's Redemption.
The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, no,
Shawshank Redemption. And I wouldn't be able to name a third one right now. I don't know.
So you haven't seen the more. Well, it's Lord of the Rings. That's the only one you have seen.
It's Lord of the Rings.
Well, there you go. Top 3, easy.
All right. Good. Nelson, what do you think are important traits a good host or a good caster should have in order for him to be good, entertaining?
It's a very good question. You want me to start with the host or with the caster? Because I feel like those are probably different.
Yeah, they're different. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as a host, I just think you need to have this capacity to just keep the show running. You have to have this ability to just talk. If you have to stall, you have to have this ability to just talk and just find things to talk about, even if it's boring, even if it's cringe. Then I think from a technical aspect, I think it's important that you can articulate well enough, that you're well understood, that people don't need to, don't get irritated by weird pronunciations or things like that. I feel like you kind of have to have this thing where you're just able to talk, have a nice pace of speech, and keep things moving. But then also just like have from a human aspect, I think you just have to be able to empathize with the people you're talking about. You need to be able to know, what does this person actually would like to talk about? What makes them excited about the game? So that you know what kind of questions you're asking them. Or how do I get this one person to, come a little bit more out and be a little bit more outgoing? I think that there has to be a lot of these little, I want to say human empathetic things that you need to be able to really tell and know how someone ticks and how you can get them to feel well in a show, because you're going to be talking to people a lot of the times, right? So if you're having a segment, you're asking, I don't know, I'm asking T90 questions, I'm asking Dave questions, I want them to talk about something. I need to know what excites them. What kind of things do they like to talk about? What things do they not like want to talk about? Something about the players, obviously. If they just lose a game, I'm going to say, hey, I'm not going to ask, hey, why did you do that stupid decision in that game? You need to have this understanding, this social awareness that you're not supposed. So I think this human element is very important for a host. As for a caster, I think yes. Well, for a caster, it really depends what kind of casting you like. Some people just like the more analytic type of casting, when folks are really just talking about strategy, really just talking about decision making. I personally, I love a good play-by-play casting. which means someone who's speedy and just keeps describing what's happening in a energetic, high energy. Yeah, like Dash, for example, for sure. That's more the casting that I personally enjoy. And so those would be the things that I look for. Someone who can speak fast but still clearly and finds words that rhyme or that sound really fun. So that's what I look for in a cast. Yeah. But I know people are different, right? So people are gonna look for different things.
Okay. Viper, do you have a question right now? I feel like in your mind there is one which is burning on your tongue. No, okay. Nelson, there were certain moments in life, if I'm not mistaken, you took a break from Age of Empires. Is that correct?
Well, I guess from a more active role of organizing tournaments or things, yes, that would have been after TAF left and Zero Empires left for CSGO. In my mind, Age of Empires 2 was going to go downhill and things were going to stop. How wrong I was. Classic. But it was just like, TAF leaves. I was in a team with TAF. Jeanette leaves. We were a team back in the Voobly days. That's like a lot of what made AoE 2 exciting for me, which was organizing tournaments with those guys, was gone. So I was like, all right, let me just also, see what happens. And then I went a bit low key, but didn't stop following or anything. I kept following tournaments all the time.
Okay, but when you saw that Age of Empires is actually thriving after that phase, then it made you more interested as well to come back and be a little bit more active, so to say, I guess, right?
What made me come back was COVID. Everybody was stuck at home. Everybody had suddenly more free time. I saw nobody had a podcast going on for Age of Empires 2. I loved listening to podcasts in the times. Well, let me just give this a try. So that's what sort of, motivated me to have a more active role again.
Okay. Yeah. And regarding TAF and Jeanette, you were part of the Voobly team then, right? And how would you say, what is the difference when you compare how it was interacting with the community back then compared to now? Can you make that comparison? And if yes, what would the differences be?
Interacting with the community. Well, I think it's undeniable there was like a closer bond, I want to say, because there was a lot fewer of us. So there was like a closer bond between us and the community. I mean, I remember when we broke 1,000 viewers on Twitch. It was a huge, massive thing. And that was the final of the Top Experts League. I remember it clearly. So, the people showing up on chat are always the same. So, the names, the people who are donating money to you. Back then, donating was a big thing. We didn't have any subscriptions or anything like that. Yeah. So it was definitely a little bit closer, but again, the group is much smaller. So right now, what I see these days is that people have become a lot more specialized. So now we have like someone like TOS who makes the map scripts. We have, again, someone like Riley who's a host. You have people who are only casters. And back in the day, we were everything. So I was a tournament organizer and a caster and a streamer. Jeanette was a technician, did all the OBSs and did the rules and did logos. And today you just have like more specific roles. You have someone who only does logos, only does art. You have someone who only does map scripting. You have someone who only does hosting. So roles have become a lot more specialized, I want to say, and more distributed through more people, obviously.
I can add a bit on the community part. Back in the day, we only had AoEZone. That was where everyone grouped up to talk. Now there's Reddit. Every streamer has their chat. They have their own Discord. There is still AoEZone. Every tournament has its own Discord. It's just everyone is spread out so much. So that tight-knitted group that was always gathering at the same location is just not a thing anymore. People jump and spread all over the place, and some people stay in one place, some people go everywhere. That also makes sense since we have a lot more people now as well, right? AoEZone would be way too small to satisfy everyone's needs at this point. But
overload,
Yeah, forums are also just not as popular anymore, right? And people now much more prefer, the realness of the whole thing, live, real time, not having to wait until somebody answers, just see if they're typing or not. They want to see it all a little bit closer.
Do you guys remember, like, when I was around 18 or something like that, AoEZone, I checked it maybe 20 times a day. I was like, checking, new posts all the time. Did you do that as well?
Yeah, obviously, yes, all the time.
It was so good. Like,
I was one of the top 2. I remember this because I was so proud of it. I was one of the users. I think I was the top 3 with the most likes on AoEZone because I was so active and people agreed with me so much. Just want to say top one might have been Viper, because when a pro player says something, he gets 100 likes or whatever. So even if it's the most stupid thing, it's still gonna get the likes.
It's because what I say makes sense. It's how it works.
Yeah. Not always. Not always.
Now
it's been sold, right? It doesn't belong to your dad anymore, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So Nelson, what is your, would you say, throughout the history, your most favorite Age of Empires 2 moment?
My most favorite, well, to me personally, probably the Maldives, just because it was the closest that I ever was to experiencing it in person. And also was the first, I believe, LAN tournament for a lot of the players. I mean, for example, Riyadh, I didn't really know what Riyadh looked like, or Lloyd's. I had no clue what Lloyd's looked like. I mean, nobody was streaming. Streaming was Viper, FH. You never streamed English. Dreams stream from time to time, but you just didn't even know how people sounded like or what they looked like. And I remember that being such a big deal. Finally seeing all those people in person, such a big moment. And then obviously, despite all the chaos, the location was pretty, was nice.
Chaos.
Well, the chaos was big, but the location was nice. I mean, at the end of the day, there was a lot of confusion, but we had a tournament. It happened. The games are good. Again, a lot of Aztec wars, a lot of Viking wars, but still, I mean, nobody complained about that crap back then. So I would say that was maybe my favorite moment, just because I was so close to it. But I don't think the Royal Albert Hall and the big moment with 100,000 people, or was it how many people live? 4,000 people. I don't think I'm going to forget about that. Even if I wasn't personally involved with it, I think that moment's going to live for a long time in my memory until something better happens, maybe. But seeing the Royal Albert Hall completely full, folks shouting, and the crazy final that we had, that's very hard to beat. Very hard to beat, I think.
Would you also say that the Royal Albert Hall with Red Bull is the best tournament for you personally?
For me,
as a watcher?
Yes. As a watch experience for me, yes. So many things went right, in my opinion. You didn't have like too much talking in between. It was just very quick segments, and you did go from one series to another fairly quickly. And then the whole show in the last day, amazing, with the orchestra and the costumes, and the final being as crazy as it was. The commentary from T90 interesting, amazing. I don't know, maybe recency bias, maybe, but I did feel like that's, dude, wow, what am I witnessing right now? And then you see 115,000 people. 115,000 people watched it live. That's just a number. It's just, I can't even compute that much. And again, I remember celebrating 1,000 viewers on the stream.
Yeah.
I remember that being the big thing, so. Yeah, it's going to take a long while to beat that, I think.
If you think back to 2014, where you're thinking like, okay, we can be happy if we have, I don't know, $1,000 prize pool yearly in tournaments, and now that.
Yeah, that too. And 1,000 viewers. Viper goes live now. After 5 minutes, it's got 1,000 viewers watching already. It's a totally different world now.
It's crazy. And I remember, when was it, 2011, something like that, Viper, where the both of us tried to fund a tournament together with also community, where we somehow tried to get $1,000, something like that, just in order to get the competitive scene going, right? We even ran the tournament.
Yeah.
I remember how happy Oregon was when I suddenly took over with the Voobly team, and we started doing all the tables and all the results. Because before that, it was Viper doing it. I was tables. Yes.
Yeah. I was doing so much admin work and was part of the host. Like, it was weird as well, right? Because I was also winning these tournaments as well. Right? But I was trying to not impact any of the rules or anything like that, right? But obviously, I obviously benefited from it as well. But I wanted the scene to grow. I wanted it to be tournaments. I put in the time and the effort. It's like, when you think back to it, it's unheard of today that it will be like something similar like that. Yeah.
Also, conflict of interest from today's perspective,
for sure.
What didn't exist back then?
Well, how? No Microsoft involvement, nothing.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Why did it all change? Like, what was the stepping stone, if there was, or if there is, to name one?
HD, HD, definitely, and the mod, the fact that the mod from Sejin was adopted, and the Forgotten. Yeah. So Sejin again, so he made this mod, the Forgotten, And after like 1 week, he gets, again, no official advertisement or anything like that, just word of mouth. Facebook would have been the thing back in the day, maybe. And he got like 1 million downloads after a couple of days on the Forgotten. 1 million downloads with no official, no official promotion, nothing of the sorts. And I believe for Microsoft, that must have been a big deal. So, there's this massive interest still in the game, right? And then, all the extra DLCs kept getting sold, and then DE just explodes everything. Now with DE, suddenly they finally get to have all the community from Voobly, all the community for HD. I think DE did what we all hoped HD would have been. We all hoped that HD would have been that place where everything just works and it's just obviously the better place to play. And I think DE was that. Right? Yes. DE was just the obvious place where everybody has to go that wants to play Age of Empires 2. So those two things definitely for me, HD and DE.
For you, Viper, what do you think?
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, like, you can go back so far, and like, there's so many people that deserve credit for the game to be where it is right now, right? Even my dad hosting AoEZone, right? Without a gathering place like that, you have Barbecue Turkmen, Zero Empires, Resonance 22, these guys that had a solid viewership on YouTube back in 2010, 11. Everything trickles, right? And then Cision, obviously, as Nelson said here, with the Forgotten, snowballs from there, and the rest is history, right? It's there's so many people that deserve so much credit that won't ever get it and won't be named in today's era, right? Today, there's a lot of people that was back then as well aren't here anymore. There's a lot of new fans that won't know all the hard work that went into getting the game to where it is right now. But yeah, it's just been a little bit of everything, and obviously the big escalation parts were the ones that Nelson mentioned.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, in terms of if you're talking just about the competitive scene alone, Orion, AoEZone was massive. AoEZone was massive, right? I think like when you talk about Cision, we're maybe talking about more the broader player base that plays campaigns as well and all those things. But in terms of the competitives,
yeah. What's funny with AoEZone is the server was at our home, right? With my dad, he had it in his office. The server, the PC was running the whole time. And whenever there was an issue with AoEZone, I would just run up to him and, yo, Dad, the AoEZone is down or something, right?
Crazy.
He would just fix it. It's crazy.
That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Nelson, you have done a lot of interviews already in the Age of Empires 2 realm. Is there one person that is, how would you say, which surprised you, who stands out, who was different than you expected him to be?
Not really.
Okay, because most of them you knew already, right?
Yeah, and I think nobody is surprised me. No, what has happened many times is when you have, and maybe that's the only surprise I could say that I've had. When you have a podcast, very often you have the feeling like, okay, so this is probably going to be a great interview. This guy's probably going to be fantastic. And then it turns out they're not really as engaging as I thought they were going to be. And then the opposite happened a lot of times too, where I thought someone is not going to be wanting to talk too much, and then they turn out to be incredibly interesting and very talkative. So all that has happened as well. But in terms of really surprising me for being completely different, never. I said it many times on my stream that I'm always struck how a lot of you streamers, I mean, Orion is probably the person I've engaged with the most, both online and offline. I've been very, I don't want to say surprised, but happily surprised maybe how much the same you guys are. So the Orion that I hear on the stream sounds exactly like the Orion that was talking to me back in the GamerLegion house. It's like the same tone of voice. So it's really, you're not putting a persona on for the stream. That is what we're trying to say. You guys just really, you're just be yourselves. Because I think you do have the impression with some streamers, specifically bigger streamers, that they probably are not really the way that they are showing themselves now on stream. And again, for most people that I've met in the Age of Empires 2 community, people are usually just genuinely being themselves, which is great. It's what streaming is supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I don't think people put on personas like they change their person, but obviously, like me, I do add some extra energy on top compared to what I'm
obviously
do. Like,
dramatize stuff. Yes, may shout when you probably wouldn't have shouted if you're just alone in your room. Course, obviously, but that's just you being an entertainer. But most of the times, I mean, like the tone of voice, how you say, what you say. At least in my experience, unless you're putting a persona next to me offline,
maybe
I don't think you would bother doing it. Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait for this segue, Jordy.
Segue coming from a persona to a question that
Jordan, can I just say something very quick? And I hate to be this guy, but I did say the team on that I need to leave at 4:30 our time. Just saying it. I really need to leave at 4:30 our time. Right?
Okay,
just, I don't know, for planning purposes.
Yeah,
I did say team on. I don't know if he redirected that information to you.
I got the information first time now, so let's say it like that. But yeah,
thank you, Timon.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just
no. All good. All good. Easy. What do you think is the reason why Age of Empires 2 is still existing after those 25 years or longer even, and other RTS games just didn't make the cut?
I think the main reason is that it's a really fun game to watch. I think it's a really easy game to watch as far as RTSs go. I've talked about this many times, but I've been watching Warcraft now that Hera was playing the tournament. I've watched it as well when Viper was playing the tournament. I have no fucking clue what's happening. I mean, I can't even tell the colors apart. The colors are the same. I mean, I don't know what units belong to one player, what units belong to the other player, and let alone knowing what the units actually do. It's just virtually impossible. And I feel like with Age of Empires 2, if you see an archer, it's pretty obvious it shoots from range. So it's a ranged unit. If you see a guy on a horse, well, it's pretty obvious it's a fast guy. If you see a trebuchet, well, it's pretty obvious it destroys buildings and all those things. I think as far as RTSs go, and RTSs are pretty complicated to understand, but as far as RTSs go, I believe Age of Empires 2 is probably the easiest one. Also because it's humans, right? It's humans. So you know what humans did, and you know roughly what these units are trying to represent in the real world. And so I think it makes for a very easy to understand spectator sport. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we match and even surpass the numbers of StarCraft 2 online. They have a lot more players than we do, but tournaments viewership is we're actually surpassing them most of the times. And I think it's because of that, because the game is actually pretty easy to see.
They have more multiplayer players, right? I think if you include single player, are they still higher?
I wouldn't know the breakdown. There's like you remember Total Biscuit? Total Biscuit was the name.
Total Biscuit
was the name of the guy. Total Biscuit. Fortunately, has died, but there was like a video. He somehow. I don't know how, but he made the claim that StarCraft gets roughly 2 million players a month. Back in the day, I don't know what the numbers are now. And again, on our side, we don't have any numbers. Still, we've speculated we might be around 1 million around the release of DLCs. But I would have expected StarCraft to still have more players. But I think it's undeniable that we get more viewership. Most of the times, not every month, but most of the months, we get more viewership. And I think just because it's easier. It's just easier to follow. It's also slower. Yes. So you get the time to explain what's happening, all those things.
Who's the most entertaining player you're watching, Nelson? Like
most entertaining player?
Yes.
Oh,
you have 2 very entertaining players in front of you. Just saying. No pressure.
I've thought logging hard about this. I think it's Viper and Jordan. Now I don't know. Listen, it really depends. I think it depends on the map potentially. Sometimes I love seeing how Winchester does crazy stuff. I feel like these days he's doing less and less crazy stuff and becoming more standard because I believe that's what you have to do in Age of Empires 2 as it's becoming more meta. I don't know. Usually I love watching high level Age of Empires 2. I just think it's legit fun to watch it and legit fun to admire how you guys can do so many things at the same time. And I know if you play it yourself, you really get to appreciate the difficulty of what it is, especially now on hybrid maps when you have to go for water, you have to go for land at the same time. And then the idle TC is almost always so low. How is it even possible? I find that incredibly fascinating as someone watching. I don't know. MBL obviously is a name that I would name because he does do crazy stuff a lot of the times. I think part of it's because he doesn't practice too much, so he's just improvising all the fucking time, and that makes him exciting. But yeah, it really because I want to say like something like that moment in the Rampart game, Leary versus Harry in the final, where Hera goes for that forward castle. Those are like the moments that you guys remember. Hera's getting pushed and losing, and then he goes for that forward castle on Rampant. Or not Rampart. I think those moments are the ones that do live more in my memory, like crazy plays, even if it ends up not working. In that case, it ended up working, but those are the kind of things that I tend to memorize, not necessarily who did it. I want to put it like that, yeah.
Viper, do you have a favorite player to watch?
It's Doubt, of course.
It's Doubt.
Of course.
Yeah, same for me.
He's just so good and so bad at the same time. It's hilarious.
So good and so bad.
And you win either way, right? If he plays good, you're happy. If he does some shit, you're just laughing.
No, I always say that Doubt, like, it amazes me how Doubt can be so freaking good at the game, but also so bad at the same time. Like within the same game,
sense.
he could have a 500 elo move and a 3k elo move, right? The range of his ability is insane. I respect that.
Yeah, consistency is not his strength in that regard. He's not consistent 2k6, let's say like that.
Yep.
What else do we have? Now, so what would you say is your motivation for Age of Empires 2 right now? Like, just continue growing your channel and get into the casting and host role a bit more? Or is there anything else?
No, listen, I'm having a great time doing these streams in the morning. I'm having a great time doing the podcasts every month, roughly the timetable we have going on. I don't need more than that, honestly. I'm having fun with it. People are showing up, and as long as that's the case, I'm going to keep having fun. I assume. If not, I'll stop it. As simple as that, right?
Yeah. All right.
Do we
I would say this is. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
No, go on. You can finish.
I was just about to say this is kind of the last question in that sense from me before I make a little bit of an announcement, which Nelson already announced a little bit earlier. What was your question, Michael?
I just wanted to remind you that there might be an announcement since we have a limited time.
No. We have a few minutes. So last question for you regarding Age of Empires, and let's see what you're saying about that, Nelson. What do you think is missing for other organizations to join the Age of Empires sphere and invest there?
What's missing?
Because, for example, in StarCraft, there were way more organizations involved, right? Compared to Age of Empires.
I think the problem is that right now, esports as a whole is just sort of in a downgrade, is in a downwards trajectory. Just there was a huge boom during COVID, right? And suddenly, venture capital thinks they can, this is going to be the next big thing. Let's invest a lot of money. And then teams started paying their players crazy salaries. Then once COVID is gone and people go outside again and audiences do go back to normal, so to speak, they realize, maybe this was a little bit too much investment. But then now you still have players making 5-figure salaries and organizations that have no way of making that money and paying that money to the players. So I don't know. I think in the current climate, it's going to be pretty difficult. The only hope is that I have more people like the Onimaru founder, which, as I understand from what I've heard you guys talk about, it's someone who's very clearly doing this as a passion project, not trying to make a business out of it. Someone who loves Age of Empires, who wants to support the community. And that's probably, realistically speaking, what we'll be going to have in the next couple of years, maybe potentially. Because just making a business out of Age of Empires is incredibly difficult. There's also the fact that you have very established streamers and players that have no reason to get a job at an organization unless they have crazy good conditions. So I don't know, if an organization wanted to hire T90, they would have to give him a lot of money to make it worth it for him to actually give up a stream, right? And so that's just never. And but on the other hand, if you don't have T90 in your organization, you don't have the big content creator. So you're always going to be competing against T90, who's been around for years. This is the same for Viper, the same for Hera, the same for all the big guys, obviously. So there's just this very content creator heavy environment that we have in Age of Empires, so that makes it very difficult for organizations to compete, which can be good and can be bad, obviously.
Yeah. Viper, any thoughts on that as well before we go to the announcement?
Well, organizations also benefit from people being streamers, right? Because you get to showcase their logos and their brands and their sponsors more often than not. So honestly, with the numbers like Red Bull has, for example, and T9 is Hidden Cup. I mean, Hidden Cup is counterproductive because it also hides the people, so you don't know. Like you cannot represent
advertise your players. Yeah.
So it is like it had great viewership, but it's like it doesn't. Sponsors don't want to pay money to be like maybe showcased at some point. No, but I mean, like I would expect with the viewership like a Red Bull tournament got, that orgs would look at the game. But they might look at like, okay, average viewership. So it's like, Hera is taken, Viper is taken, these streamers. So for streaming, there might not be anyone right now that they would jump in to grab, right? That would be worth the money. And then regarding competitions as well, I think the only reason any big orgs other than like Vitality clearly took a chance on Age of Empires that they would be part of Esports World Cup. That did not happen, so they're not obviously happy about that. But for them, it's like it was worth the investment anyway. They probably can afford it, and I mean, they also it's a safe investment with Hera Leary on the team in particular, right? I think as well what Nelson said is mostly now going to be passion projects and people that have spare money and just want to give back to the community or for whatever reason they might have. Otherwise, I think the only way to have a lot of orgs entering is Esports World Cup. And there's obviously, if that happens, there's going to be people that aren't happy about it. But for a player, it's like you're suddenly guaranteed maybe 1 or 2 years of livelihood in Age of Empires. And that's like massive. So I don't, if it ever happens, I hope no one ever blames any player that jumps in the opportunity because it's massive.
Yes, I agree. That's a very good point, though, that a big tournament is what probably could get some organizations to invest in the area. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the input, guys. Just to have a nice segue, talking about tournaments. As most viewers know, the Brazilian Dynasty is going to be taking place beginning of July in Brazil. Oh. And so far, we have been missing a lovely host who takes over the show and runs the show. And we have a person who will do that. Nelson is going to be the person. Congratulations, Nelson, for being the host in Brazil.
Oh, what picture is that? What the? Seriously?
Perfect.
Seriously? Where was it taken? Where was it taken?
I don't know. I'm looking into like the wide horizon. What the fuck am I doing there?
Nelson, congrats. Have you ever been to Brazil?
Yes. My brother used to live in Brazil, and there's a very big connection between Portugal and Brazil. So yeah, I've been there a few times. Not in São Paulo though, so I'm looking forward to that.
So as you are fluent in Portuguese, you're also going to have a good time there because Portuguese is.
And hey, I'll be the only person on the broadcast that will know how to pronounce the maps. I'm gonna be flexing it all the fucking time. I'm gonna be flexing it left and right, correcting people's pronunciation.
That's perfect.
Like that,
Yeah, Nelson, how do you feel about the invitation there, being host?
Very happy. So I reached out to a couple of tournament organizers, well, to 2 precisely. When GamerLegion was finished, and I knew I'd be out of a job in Age of Empires 2. And one of them was the Brazilian Dynasty guys, and say, hey, listen, I can do this hosting gig. I have the experience. You guys know me, so if you guys are ever considering a host for a tournament, feel free to reach out. They reached out like 2 weeks later or something like that, pretty early on. I reached out to another tournament organizer, but I don't think I can reveal which one that is. But they come back to me as well, so. We'll see about that second one, but very, very happy, obviously, that I was given the opportunity, and looking forward to do a good job, hopefully.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you're going to rock it.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Appreciate that, my friend.
I'm pretty confident there. Vipers as well, the way he smiles.
Yeah, of course. He's an experienced fella at this point, so I'm not concerned.
Appreciate that, my friend.
All right, I told Nelson, I told Nego that we have 3 more minutes for a Q&A session at the end. So he told me he wants to show the questions on screen. So let's.
Do I need to go to the comments tab, or where do I need to go?
I think Jordan will ask them. Just look at the.
Dear Nelson, Thames. Yeah, so Arish is one of my viewers, and we have this beautiful 4v4 game, which I won in Thames, and Arish was in the loser team. It's totally fine to lose, Arish. Again, no, totally fine. You win some, you lose some. And he's been asking me,
what is the question? I'm wondering myself.
The question is that he wants us to play that map again because he wants to get his revenge.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, he wants to get his revenge. That's why I understand. Do I read or do you read the question, Jordan?
You can read it.
I read it. So why does this persona change so much when he's casting versus playing ladder? Also, him cast so many hybrid and clown maps. Why does he keep playing Arabia only? Fail wall. So that's one of my mods. Why does it change? Yeah, I get so nervous when I play. I get very tilted when I play. It's so stupid. I'm a 40-year-old man. You would have thought that a more mature person would understand it's just fucking pixels in the computer screen, but I get so tilted when I play. And so I get very nervous, especially when I play on stream. And I think that's what he's talking about. Whereas when I'm casting, I'm a lot more chill and there's very little at stake. And why only Arabia? I was born and raised in the Arabia Han War era. And so that's what I like. I play CA Civs. I play Arabia. And I was dodging back in the day. Now we can't dodge anymore because the penalties are crazy high. So I'm forced to play more maps now. So you're going to be seeing more and more of that.
Our
So
base.
do I just keep reading or okay? So
Yes, you go ahead.
We already covered this. To be fair.
Okay.
What we need to have for
Yeah. We
did ask me exactly that.
Our base. You have to pay attention more, please.
He answered it before we talked about it. To be fair.
Yes, exactly. All right. I think that's kind of it. These are the 3 questions. I want to say thank you to. Maybe one more question.
Another one.
Do you need to read this? Nelson, I always wonder how your English is so good. Have you lived in the US for a period of time? I used to think you were American because you sounded native. No, I don't know quite how to answer. So I never lived in the US, but in Portugal, I think that plays a big role. In Portugal, we never dub the series. So, if you see a series, it's always subbed. So you have subtitles, so I actually get to hear the accents of the actors. And for better or worse, American culture is everywhere these days, in TV, in music, in movies. And so you just get very used to the American accent. And so I guess that's just why my ears tend to follow it a bit more. And then I think being somewhat musical means I tend to listen to the nuances. I love accents. I love analyzing accents and trying to imitate accents. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But otherwise, I've just been speaking English all my life, basically. So at some point, you're just fluent in it.
That kind of reminds me of the story of Viper, except the music thing, right? But other than that, also no dubbing in Norway, right? And your English is also like
that's it's a big deal in you sort of choosing an accent for yourself. What kind of accent you're more familiar to, right? So I think a lot of Europeans maybe tend to follow more the English accent because Britain's actually part of Europe. And
then in Germany they dub every single freaking thing.
Everything is
even
dubbed.
Pokemon have different names for some reason.
Yeah. It's in my opinion, it's very bad.
Like Bisa-sam. Who is Bisa-sam?
The funny thing is it's the same guy. It's the same guy doing all the voices, and you can definitely tell that it's the same guy doing women and men sometimes when the budget's not very high,
yeah, absolutely. All right, I think this is a good closure to the lovely episode we had. Nelson, Viper,
really appreciate it, guys. It was fun. Was fun.
Someone has to leave. Someone has to
go. I'm good. I'm still good.
Another question.
I have a question. Which I can explain. What do you mean? You'll be the only one. Oh yeah, Daniela used to live in Lisbon. Daniela used to live in Lisbon many times. So that's true. That's true.
You can go, Nelson.
Now I can go.
That's a good question.
I don't know how good is your Portuguese, Daniela. I don't even. Why do I look at?
No habla.
I don't know. Well, I'll ask her in private.
No habla.
Was a pleasure, fellas.
Yep, was awesome. Thank you guys for the invitation. All right, I appreciate the great questions too.
Yeah,
good.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Hyperman.
Are we still live?